History flows like a river. Tell us what happened today in history.
Today, 215 years ago, on May 18, 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of the First Empire of France, became emperor. Napoleon, a man who stirred up the European continent in the 19th century. He led French soldiers to repel the anti-French alliance several times, making France the largest country in Europe at that time. At the same time, Napoleon resolutely suppressed the domestic royalist party, stabilized the domestic regime, and promulgated the civil code to consolidate the achievements of the bourgeois revolution. France and his leaders are in the annals of history. Napoleon was born on the island of Corsica. From an early age, he had the aggressive and stubborn character of Corsican people and was very obsessed with military affairs. In 1793, Captain Napoleon, who graduated from the military academy soon after, succeeded in quelling the Toulon Rebellion with his unique strategic vision and outstanding tactical application, and was promoted to brigadier general. Later, he led 5,000 people in Paris to successfully quell the riots of 40,000 royalists and became a dazzling new star in the French Revolution. Napoleon, who became famous, gave up his comfortable life and plunged into the battle against the Allied anti-French army. His Italian legion was once known as the Chemical Army. Under Napoleon's rectification and command, this chemical army became the most effective army in France and even Europe. It not only defeated the Austrian Sardinian coalition forces in Italy and occupied the whole of Italy, but also forced the Austrian emperor to sign the alliance under the city by heading straight to the Austrian capital Vienna. In this way, the military genius Napoleon smashed the first anti-French alliance, won the trust and respect of the French people, and laid the foundation for his future monarchy. In 1799, Napoleon, on an expedition to Egypt, learned that the Second Anti-French Alliance had been formed, and that the French army had failed again and again, and the domestic situation was tense. Napoleon was keenly aware that a great political change was coming, which was a very rare opportunity for him. So he quietly sneaked back to France, launched a fog moon coup, assumed the first consul, and began drastic reforms. He practiced centralization, vigorously developed banks, industry and commerce, established new enterprises, and encouraged the production of large machines. In Napoleon, it was further welcomed by the people. In Napoleon's vigorous domestic reform, the Second Anti-French Alliance was established, and the coalition began to attack France. Napoleon commanded the army to fight flexibly and maneuverably, and adopted various breakdown tactics. It took only 1 month to defeat his opponents and disintegrate the Second Anti-French Alliance. In the subsequent confrontations with the Anti-French Alliance, Napoleon won more than 60 victories, fully demonstrating his extraordinary military talent. In order to better manage the country, on August 12, 1800, Napoleon issued an order to establish a civil code drafting committee. In 1803, Napoleon presided over the adoption of 2,281 articles of the French Civil Code. In March 1804, the Civil Code, also known as the Napoleonic Code, was officially promulgated. This Napoleon Code is regarded as a milestone of the world legal culture, and has become the blueprint of modern bourgeois legislation, which is still in use today. Today, 150 years ago, on May 18, 1869, the Republic of Shrimp and Yi was destroyed by Japan. From 1868 to 1869, Shrimp Yi was now known as Hokkaido, and Hakodate as Hakodate was founded in December 1868 as a result of resistance to the Meiji government of Japan. It fought against the Meiji government and survived only 125 days. In April 1868, Edo was bloodless, and a new Meiji government was established. However, the Shogunate Navy pursued the principle that Yamato Wuyang refused to surrender the Shogunate fleet and led 8 warships northward to the Shrimp Barn Hull to occupy the 5-edged edge of the Western-style armed castle. Among them are the newly compiled Turkish Age 3. There are also some French officers and soldiers, with a total of more than 3,000 troops. On December 25, cadres above the rank of sergeant voted to elect Rongbin President of the Republic of Shrimp and Yi President. Meiji Secretary of State Iwakura urged European and American countries to withdraw their neutral recognition through diplomatic channels, and then sent troops to fight against it. In the early spring of 1869, the second year of Meiji, the Box House War broke out. The Republic of Shrimp and Yi was defeated and the Turkish army died in World War III. On May 17, 1869, Meiji decided to surrender. On May 18, Wulingguo handed over to Kuroda Qinglong, the army staff officer of the government. The end of the Shrimp Yi Republic, which had been established for more than 100 days, also represented the end of the Civil War, the Wuchen War. Afterwards, he served 5 years in prison until he was granted amnesty in Meiji. 2 years later, he served as a minister in Russia and made great achievements in signing the Birch-Tai Thousand Island Exchange Treaty with Tsar Alexander II. Today, 65 years ago, on the 18th of May 1954, the European Convention on Human Rights entered into force. The European Convention on Human Rights is also known as the Convention for the Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms. Signed in Rome on 4 November 1950 under the auspices of the Council of Europe. Effective 3 September 1953. As at 1 January 1997, there were 34 states parties. It is the first regional international human rights treaty. It provides for collective guarantees and implementation of certain rights and fundamental freedoms set forth in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. After the Second World War, under the trend of European Union, Western European countries established the European Commission in order to safeguard and realize the ideal and principle as the common heritage of European countries, promote economic and social progress and achieve greater solidarity among countries. In order to safeguard and further realize human rights and fundamental freedoms, member states have signed the Convention. There are 5 chapters and 66 articles of the Convention. The Convention provides that states parties shall obtain the rights and freedoms set forth in Section I of this Convention for everyone under their jurisdiction. Article 1, that the right to life of any person shall be protected by law. Article 2, that no person shall be subjected to torture or inhuman or humiliating treatment or punishment. Article 3, and that no person shall be enslaved or enslaved. Article 4, and that all persons shall enjoy freedom and personal integrity. The right to security. Article 5, in deciding a person's civil rights and obligations or in deciding any criminal offense against a person, any person has the right to fair and public trial by a legally established, independent and impartial tribunal. Presumption of innocence. Article 6, non-retroactivity of criminal law. Article 7, the right of everyone to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, the right of everyone to freedom of expression and the right of everyone to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. Articles 8, 9, 10 and 11, men and women of marriageable age are subject to the relevant domestic law. The right to marry and to form a family. Art. 12. In addition, the Convention stresses that any person has the right to seek effective remedies from the national authorities when his rights and freedoms under the Convention are violated, even if the above violations are committed by persons holding public office status. Everyone shall be guaranteed the rights and freedoms enumerated in the Convention and shall not be based on sex, race, color, language, religion, politics or other opinions or citizens. Discrimination arises from ethnic or social origin, association with ethnic minorities, property, birth or other status. Arts. 13 and 14. The European Convention on Human Rights provides for the establishment of the European Commission on Human Rights and the European Court of Human Rights to ensure the effective implementation of the Convention. From 1950 to 1992, the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe formulated 10 protocols to the European Convention on Human Rights successively. Today, 42 years ago, on May 18, 1977, the International Museum Association announced the first International Museum Day to the world. May 18, 1977 is the first International Museum Day declared by the International Museum Association to the world. Around the 5th century BC, in the Temple of Delphi Olympus in Greece, there was a treasure house of various sculptures and trophies, which was regarded as the beginning of museums by the museum community. For quite a long time afterwards, museums were only collections for royalty or a few wealthy people to see exotic objects. By the end of the 18th century, museums in some Western European countries had been established and opened to the public. Only then did the functions of museums develop and people's understanding of museums have changed. Around the 5th century BC, in the Greek temple of Delphi Olympus, there was a very splendid treasure house with many precious sculptures and trophies. This treasure house can be said to be the beginning of an earlier museum. For quite a long time, the museum has served as an exhibition room for royal nobles and a few wealthy people to enjoy exotic treasures. Later, by the end of the 18th century, museums in some Western European countries appeared one after another, and opened to the public. Only then did the cultural functions of museums get new development, so that people gradually increased their attention and understanding of museums. In 1880, British museum scholar Ruggins published a paper entitled The Function of Museums, emphasizing that museums should be places for the general public to receive education. In his two monographs on museums in the future and principles of museum administration, American scholar Goody further emphasized that museums must devote themselves to innovating education and carrying out active activities so that they can not only become places for experts and scholars to engage in research, but also become supplementary facilities for educational institutions and teaching gardens outside schools. In November 1946, the International Association of Museums was founded in Paris, France. In June 1974, the International Association of Museums held its 11th session in Copenhagen, defining museums as an open permanent institution that serves social development without seeking profit. It regards collecting, preserving and researching the witnesses of human beings and their environment as its basic duty, so that they can be exhibited, made public, and provided opportunities for learning, education and appreciation. In 1971, the International Museum Association held a conference in France. In view of the development of the world today, the relationship between the cultural and educational functions of museums and the future of mankind was discussed. In 1977, the International Museum Association announced to the world that May 18, 1977 was the first International Museum Day, and the theme of the International Museum Day was determined annually in order to promote the healthy development of the global museum cause and attract the public's understanding, participation and attention to the museum cause. Today, 34 years ago, on May 18, 1985, the funeral of Weng Meiling was held in Hong Kong. On Sunday, May 18, 1985, Weng Meiling's funeral ceremony began at 11 a.m. Her body lay peacefully in the coffin, wearing a white embroidered costume. Weng Meiling has starred in many TV series, among which Huang Rong is the most successful one in The Heroes of Archery. She committed suicide by turning on gas on May 14.